Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Will Rich. So we know that all the money is in data here, and Big Bear AI is surging. It's up 20% today. Oops, let's see. Showing the wrong screen there. That was the team. Which, by the way, shout out to my team. Uh, we are working tirelessly to get the virtual stock trading system out, which is super exciting. And we just reopened it for a limited time. First link in the description. You can check it out here. Analytics, everything else. It's so awesome. But anyway, Big Bear has been surging. And I already posted a video just a minute ago on Big Bear, but I scheduled this live session. So I saw some people waiting. So I'm going to just start this live session regardless of the fact that we have two Big Bear videos today. And let's talk about this move. So yesterday we made a video on Big Bear. We're talking about how it was at this support level. It was selling down possibly because financial pressure. I mean, the market was doing good, but we were having a target here of a 25% swing on Big Bear from that support level into that resistance. So about a 20, we had this 25% margin mapped out, and you'll see that not only did it surge 25%, it surged as high as 30% up to $5.15 per share. Now, this morning we were trading Tesla stock, so actually didn't catch the short-term move, but the long-term move with Big Bear is looking good. So that's good. And how are you guys doing today? How is everybody feeling? Big Bear AI starting to get some momentum here. 30% swing in the last 24 hours. There wasn't any catalyst. We looked at the news. There wasn't anything specifically that we saw that specifically surged them in the short amount of time. It wasn't anything that happened just now. It was a build-up cumulative of new articles, new momentum, and you started to see that their stock was doing okay financially, and then they come out with new articles with their very scan as they continue to develop this technology and get put into airports at an unprecedented speed. So if we take a look at the recent articles, this is something they released a couple days ago. It is deploying their passenger biometric facial scanning into major ports of entry. I think that the data side is actually where all the power will drive their stock. They have all these new airports there just springing up like crazy into. You got Los Angeles, you got John F. Kennedy. Personally, firsthand, we filmed it on a video, but I did get scanned by Big Bear at Denver International Airport while attending a conference there for space tech. We got to see Rocket Lab. We got to see Black Sky, which also has some technology similar that is going to be interesting to get another look at. But yeah, how about it, guys? Let's go. We see it, 20% swing. I love all the comments. You got Dorian in here. Gary's like, Gary says, fun day. Yaniv says, what's the resistance support? Let's go into it. You got Gary saying, I've been longing and it's going well. John says, hello. Good morning, John. Saw John in our live session this morning in Stockmates. You got Gary says, I'm happy. I dumped cooler, used some to buy Big Bear AI. There you go. Yaniv says, BBI. Yes, I do hold it. We have a coverage on Big Bear AI since October. And we have a $2.80 price average. So we're up over we're almost 100% on our money in the last few months buying long term on Big Bear. Tom says BBAI, let's go! Exclamation mark. And get some LFGs in there. Eric says my Schwab account's on fire. I love it. So Melvin says hi. Hey Melvin. And then you got Kwong says sold at 516. Michael Sullivan, good morning. Eric, reason for BBAI increase, Iran ceasefire, oil prices drop, S&P at all-time high. We start to see it. Now, a lot of people think the market's going to dip, continue to dip, and it's interesting, our accounts just holding a little negative. We had some call volatility, but our Schwab portfolio is doing very well with our longs on Big Bear AI. We got into a dip buy on TSLL, which still hasn't hit our stop. It's actually looking good. It dipped huge. We bought. We're in it. So let's take a look at the levels. BigBear.AI, you got this surge of 25% today, really a 30% swing. It's been in this trend. So we kind of talked about this potential move yesterday because of this consistent uptrend it's had for the last few months. And now it peaked out at $5.15. This is not a new resistance. When we started covering it back in October and we saw it surge to that $5.30 range, it was here where it got rejected and sold down as low as 280, and then had trouble. It got rejected again, sold down to 355. But this is also where last time it broke out at this price point up into that $10 price point from February into mid-February. So what yeah, there is this bearish outlook. You got the overextension, but you can see I changed my RSI so that it's working in high volatility because it's maybe going hyper bullish here. And so now the next levels to watch. There's definitely that $5 price point at which it just shot up to that if it's hyper bullish will act as a support. So that $5 price point could act as a support. And then the next level to get to is that previous support, previous resistance at about $6.35. It's a 20% swing on the hyper bullish trend. Now let's say that it is going to hold this steady uptick and it does get rejected here. It's not hyper bullish, which I actually think it's possible that it will be hyper bullish. And I got to reset this RSI here to standard levels that I like because it was just throwing me off. And the RSI MACD looks overbought. It's possible that it sells back down. What are the next levels if it's not hyper bullish, if we see it sell back down? That would be here. Let's take a look. There is, if I'm not mistaken, it was this $4.65 range. So you got this resistance, 465 in December and into January. 465 there. You have so January, then you had 465 support or consolidation back in March, and then a 465 right around here, actually 465 resistance back in May. So if we don't see that hyper bull trend continue here and it breaks out of this over uptrend and we see it make that move up into that $7 range, $5 to $7 range, which it is possible. I mean, look at the momentum. This is not just retail investors. It's leading the way in AI, up 21% today. It's possible. It has, this likelihood of potentially getting rejected as it has many times at that $5 price point. So if it gets rejected and it sells down to this 480 somewhere in here, it's possible that takes place. We see it sell down, be about a 5% sell down. And if anything, it would actually be healthy. I wouldn't even be upset if it sold down into this $4.20 range down to here and it did get rejected, because a couple things. The infrastructure they're building in this market, not a lot of companies are getting Department of Defense contracts. Their financials will be coming up, and then they have this potential to really surprise. As we know, they've gotten tons of contracts since their last earnings, and even stated that in their last earnings, not all the revenue was reported that should have been, that they were expecting to report, not because they hadn't made the money from the contracts, but because it literally just was in processing and hadn't hit their bank account. So it's possible they have a surprising quarter. Some of those airport contracts kick in and we see the continuation kick in. But if it pulls back in the meantime, that's okay. From a scalp trade or a short-term trade, I wouldn't do anything with this at the moment. And I'll tell you why. I mean, if I did, I would have a tight stop somewhere around this $5 range, and I would look for that run up into the $5 to $6 range. But it does have an overextension right now, so it would make sense that it sells down. I don't know conservatively if it's going to sell as low as 420. It might sell down to this previous resistance at 480, somewhere in here, before continuing up if we see that sell down. But realize this is not retail investors. This is institutional buying. This is a big move. If they're up 20%, that means their market cap increased by $200 million basically in the last 45 minutes or a couple, like last 2 hours. They had over $200 million in buying happen. So if I refresh the page on their financials here, I'm fairly certain it's yeah, they're at $1.5 billion market cap. So they actually saw over $300 million in added value because they were already at a $1.1 million market cap. So no no better time to have caution to. The reality is this is the time when most people don't set stop losses, when most people buy and think it's going to the moon. They freak out and they say, I can't miss this jump to $7. And so it's one of the most imperative things to consider when you have this type of move take place is that this is the time when it makes the most sense to, if you're entering a position, have risk management in place, but also realize that it's okay if you buy high as long as you have that in place. Just because something's high doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad deal. In fact, based on some of the comparisons and the contracts we've seen with them, if they reach that $3 to $5 billion market cap and be compared to that of a company like Leidos, something like that, it's possible. But what we're looking for to really validate that type of move, that $5 billion market cap or above, which would be up back into that $10 to $20 range, would indicate that they do have the financials to back it up. And while they did reduce their debt significantly in the last quarter, and that's why their net income was down, because you could look at the balance sheet on the quarterly basis, they reduced their debt by about 40%. You see total liabilities dropped 26% and their total assets went up. So they're managing the capital good. Now, are they going to see that net income increase more? 50% year over year increase, it's good. Profit margins up 50%. Those are percentages. It's still negative, and we're going to look for that cash flow potentially to build into Big Bear. And what better way to do it than to become not just a defense company, not just an AI analytical company that has their very scan, and that they're at the airports and they're building contracts also in that maybe the satellite defense or intelligence. They got the Pentagon, but to have a proper business model around the actual data that they're collecting. Can you imagine the sheer amount of data that they are getting by running this type of software? And with that comes a lot of responsibility, and also it comes a massive opportunity. While they might be related to TSA, a lot of their blue ocean market strategy comes when they put these machines actually, and I have thumbnails on my YouTube channel where it shows me getting stopped by like a TSA agent, and it's like me getting my face scanned. But I'll tell you, when I got my face scanned by Big Bear, and how people get their face scanned is actually via the boarding of the plane right at the gate. So why is that an advantage? Two things. Number one, doesn't really exist. They're the first company, really. Number two, they go past the TSA. So what does that mean? They're commercial, which means they have other advantages to do things with that data potentially. The other key, which this is like where you got to like really like great power, great responsibility. The other key about that is imagine the amount of momentum that gives them in their blue ocean strategy, that their technology is in a place where other companies haven't reached that yet. They're actually going around TSA in a way. And so maybe that means more growth because it requires less stringent, what is it? Where in order to do something with the government, you got to go through all these background checks and all this stuff to like double check the technology. And some airports might not like it. They're going directly to Delta. They're going directly to Frontier or whatever. And I don't know that there's a government approval process for them to actually do that. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like while they have government contracts, that's where they have it. They're going commercial with this. They got UAE partnerships and things like that. Uh, and Big Bear is becoming Big Brother. Oh man. So Scorpio PD says I'm up $3,000. Excellent job. Uh, yeah. So and the other thing too is like imagine how many more units they do by going to all the gates. You might have one security place that has like 10 different spots where you go, or 20 or 30 different spots where you go in through TSA, right? So that's 20 to 30 monitors or facial scanners. But if they're going, let's say, to all the gates, there's a lot of gates. Some airports have hundreds of gates. So that's hundreds of potential scanners or opportunities for them to get their product out there. And that compounds when you go from airport to airport to things like that, right? So I think that's where the growth could happen on the fundamental side. Now, I can't stress enough like how much I'm looking forward to the earnings. The other earnings this week actually was this inside of StockMate. If you guys are familiar, it's the second link in the description if you want to join us in our daily live trading sessions. Today we're trading, and we wrapped up our session at around 6:30 or 7 a.m. But we have Micron Technology reporting earnings too. So semiconductors, maybe we get, that's the one company that I really think could give some market direction. But with this big uptick up into this $5.15 range on BigBear.AI, it just means that they're now getting into this new price target. They're pricing in with a new market cap, and that means there could be more risk, especially with, it's weird. I don't know. It feels good. I love it. But when euphoria hits the market, there's also like, is it the missile strikes gonna tie into some market pullbacks? Are we gonna continue to see all-time highs? That's why I say, yeah, I'm continuing to buy assets. Yeah, we have the long-term and Big Bear and everything else. But when it comes to the short-term trades or things like that, I would just urge caution, or at least, there's no difference between buying at the top or buying at the bottom when trading in the short term, because you're going to have a plan in place. You want to stack the probabilities in your favor. Look for the support, look for good financials, look for good news that you could play. Like yesterday's robo-taxi event with Tesla, we played news. Sometimes we play technicals, but you want all the probabilities in your favor, of course. But the number one thing will be the plan that you have, especially if you're buying near a top. So if you're looking, let's say, I'm not encouraging you guys to buy, like merging caution, but when you are at a resistance or something like this, if you're looking at it and saying this is the hyperbole swing up into that $7 range, we see the breakout of this trend we've seen for the last 3 months, then having that plan in place will make all the difference so you don't wipe out some of the gains that you have in the bullish markets. Just keep that in mind. I love to see all the comments. You got Yaniv in here, Elias. Elias says he's up $200. Someone says 25. I don't know if that's 25,000. Johnny's like, yeah, let's go. Grandpa says holding since $2.76. Some people have a higher entry or lower entry. I was just on the phone yesterday with Albert, one of my consulting clients I work with, and he said that he had bought Big Bear somewhere in that 480, somewhere in here, and that he had also bought some other companies, and he gave me some of the other companies. I said, intrinsically, the other companies, little less certain, but when I would say Big Bear, we were talking about it yesterday, I'm like, I just made a video. It's right at this support. The next target's actually this 25% swing at $4.80 price target. To me, is really, you're not in a bad spot there, especially with the intrinsic value building with the company. So I don't tell him what to buy or sell too much. I actually can a little more because he's an actual client, but I was like, that would be one I wouldn't worry about. So shout out to Albert, you're up today. So awesome, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. The other key indicator, which is a side note, that is, some people say, Will, how could you say that? It's so far away. We don't know if that's going to play any role in value. Personally, I think it will. But the 2026 North American World Cup, when you see the companies building Big Bear building this here, where they're with all these airports in the in North America, so in Canada, in places where they're going to be holding, the actual games, like in Los Angeles and what have you, the international terminal of Los Angeles. There's going to be millions of people coming into the U.S. for the World Cup. So with the World Cup around the corner, in my eyes, I would imagine that having a software that is biometric, that's Big Bear has, would be a key advantage for the growth of their company, because of the potential, not that they're already working with the government, but for the potential of also working with Homeland Security or what have you. Those are things that most likely would be valuable to the US government to be able to track, to be able to look, to be able to see the types of people that TSA agents wouldn't be able to keep up with, most likely. And shout out, like, it's a hard job. The TSA agents it's no fault to their own. It's one person and they got to go through 1,000 people in an hour or something. So it's part of it. But anyway, that's kind of the way I see it. So I think it could be a potential catalyst, and that's not for a while. But okay, final thesis on the market. Again, $5 price point for hyper bullish trend. If we see it act as a resistance, that's what a true breakout looks like. This is not a true breakout yet. It's a great continuation of the trend. But we've seen this happen, and then what happens is we also see it pull back down, and potentially could see it pull back down into that $4.50 range, or pull back into that $4 range before continuing up. And that would be just as healthy. That would be more healthy than seeing it continue the breakout. What I'd like to see, though, is that validation of previous resistance. The hyper bull trend validates previous resistance. So the previous resistance is at $4.80. I'd like to see it hold above those levels. That would be good indication that it could continue to have a even more bullish swing. And patience is the name of the game for sure, but that's just going to be that $5 range, and then that $4.80 support is going to be where we're going to see the key levels play into a potential correction coming here after a 22% increase here. And then, of course, the next resistance, if they do break out of this 520, which they're still holding at the resistance there, but if they do break out of it, then they're at $6.40 resistance, which, again, that's a 25% increase potential if they continue the rally. And then previous highs that we saw back in February would be about 100% increase from here up to that $10 price point. And we did see those in February. It's a bull trend. That's what you look for. But again, just watch that $5 price point. Really see if it holds those levels. That would be more indication we could confidently, look for a bullish short-term buy as we continue to add to the longer-term positions with Big Bear. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Also, just a friendly reminder, yesterday we had closed, or Sunday night, we had closed the virtual stock trading system. It's our brand new, revolutionary new system that takes all of the analytics that I do personally, and it puts them into essentially AI that uses real-time data and agentic capabilities to actually go surf news, financials, the charts, and give predictive analytics. But outside of that, there's weekly classes on Zoom for 6 weeks. If you'd like to join us, we talk about entries and exits, everything else. We closed the system on Sunday. I got some messages, people saying, "Hey, Will, I missed the window. I didn't have time. I didn't know it was like that. I didn't have enough time. I didn't calculate it right." That's okay. We did reopen it. I don't know that it's going to stay open for long here. We're reopening the system. If you missed it, again, you get the 6-week Zoom. You get beta access to Mercatus, our predictive analysis software, and you also get a one-on-one call with myself when you enroll to kickstart some of your investing. So if that's you, you're looking for that. The other bonus is that you get a 1-year membership to StockMate, which is where we trade live every morning at market open. So today we traded at 6:30. It's a great way to surround yourself with like-minded individuals, get targets like we just covered earlier Micron's reporting after hours. We give all the earnings as well as targets for the week. And the other bonus is that you get to get the daily live sessions. There's about 70 plus lessons. You can see the next live trading. And we even send out a free t-shirt to those of you guys that enroll. So if you want a free t-shirt as well, it's included. And that's in the virtual stock trading system. I'll go ahead and drop the link for you all in the chat. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys. Take care.